Hey all, good evening. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. I'm going to be talking about an interesting subject that I saw this morning on Dialogue Works with Alex Krainer. I'm going to show you this portion, and then it sparked my interest, and so I started to research and look into it. And I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Information. But the core issue with Russia would be the government in Ukraine, how the government would behave, what would be the agenda on the part of the government, and who are these nationalists, ultra-nationalists, or neo-Nazis in Ukraine? What would be their position? These are huge questions, in my opinion, when it comes to Ukraine.
Yeah, huge questions. The British have evacuated about 8,000 Nazi allied troops and officers from Ukraine after World War II. And they brought them to Britain and to Canada, and they are still there, and they are organized. And I presume that this is what's going to happen after the war finishes in Ukraine, that a large number of these Ukrainian neo-Nazis are going to be evacuated. They're going to be settled probably in Canada. And they're going to keep them there as maybe even a government in exile of some sort, and they're going to try to keep them for the next opportunity to try to take down Russia, because they've been trying to take down Russia for centuries now. Depending on how you want to cut it, but there's been, European bankers have been financing invasions and other means of taking over Russian government for several centuries. There was the Swedish invasion and the Polish Lithuanian invasion, and Napoleon in 1812, and Hitler, of course, Operation Barbarossa in 1941, but there were also attempts to penetrate into the Russian governing structures and install a puppet ruler. That goes back to 1500s even. You had like two false Dimitris where, they tried to pretend that they find some guy in Poland and they say like, oh, he's the son of Peter the Great, and he's the rightful heir of the Russian throne, and then they bring him to Moscow and they install him there, and then the Russian people rebel and chase them out. But they've been trying to do this for a very long time, and even the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution was financed and organized by Western financiers. So it was, American, British, German, Swedish bankers were funding the Bolshevik Revolution to have their government in Moscow, and they succeeded. I grew up in the communist world. This is not what they taught us, but after 50 years after an event, a lot of documents are released, and we now know for certain, this is not a conspiracy theory, we know for certain that this is actually what happened from United States congressional investigations and State Department files, that in fact New York bankers, in cooperation with German and Swedish bankers and intelligence agencies, actually orchestrated the Bolshevik Revolution and installed the communist government there, which remained loyal to them until Stalin took over and then conducted a purge. But I think that in some way, probably at the central bank level, they remained, the liaisons remained.
Okay, so let me just say that I wasn't aware of this. I don't know that every part of history, but I found this really interesting. And I had no idea that these bankers were involved from my country and, the Germans and all that other stuff. Maybe you all have heard it, but it was news to me. And wow, I heard that and I was like, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is unreal, unreal. So I'm going to share. I actually went and found a source online. It was a summarized kind of portions of a summary, basically a summary of a book that talks about this time, and it was published and it was out in like 1974. But I took notes and I basically did a summary of some of my sorts myself to a certain extent to try to give you an idea of what I found out. And this is just a portion of it. I haven't gotten through to the other portion yet, but I wanted to just share what I have with you. I found this fascinating, what Alex Krainer said. Again, perhaps you all already know this history, but for me, I didn't. And some of my viewers may not know about this either. So I'm going to share what I have gotten notes on and summarize for you. So, the Bolshevik Revolution was not just an uprising of the poor masses. It was a coup financed and orchestrated by powerful Western wealthy men's interests, which is what he was talking about. Where were the bankers in America, Germany, and the global sphere that purposely funded? So they purposely funded it, and they funded an atheistic, anti-Christian political project. And what was their concealed goal? Well, I guess we're going to follow the money and eventually find this out. The instant enablers were the Germans. Germany had two primary goals: pushing Russia out of World War I to finish the Eastern Front and gain control of Russia's markets post-war. So this is really early on. The German government funded and organized the return of Lenin and the Bolsheviks. Isn't this something? And later on, the Mensheviks to Russia. Money was transferred through the Nya Banken. It's in Stockholm, Sweden, which is why he brought up the Swedish, the Sweden as well. Okay, so it was owned by a crucial intermediary, a Bolshevik banker named Olaf Ashberg. Okay, so the strategic wartime funding provided the Bolshevik leaders right to the capital. It opened the gates to the collapse of the Orthodox monarchy, and because of that, brought about the persecution of the Russian Orthodox Church. Now, who worked with Germany in this devious, greed-ridden plan? America, out of New York City via Wall Street and Federal Reserve Bank. This global strategy was tied to J.P. Morgan's Guarantee Trust Company in New York and other wealthy, powerful people like William Boyce Thompson. The latter was a director of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and a Morgan Rockefeller associate. These relationships were deep and ongoing. Thompson gave $1 million. That's a lot of money for back then. And it's still pretty high now, but way back then, I mean, that's a lot. He gave $1 million to the Bolshevik Revolution, and the purpose was for propaganda. Morgan's Guarantee Trust gave funds to back a man named Ludwig Martins. He was the first Soviet ambassador to the U.S. The critical link was a man named Olaf Ashberg. He became the head of the first Soviet international bank called Rushcom Bank. At the same time, a man named Max May, who was the vice president of Morgan's Guarantee Trust, became a pivotal director in its foreign department. This prominent collaboration shows a combined vision between influential Western elites for a long-term dominion over the Russian market and its expansive resources. This project went far past the benefit of wartime. So, what and where was the logistics hub for this scheme? It was through Stockholm and Olaf Ashberg's bank, Nya Banken. It served as a crucial global intermediary by connecting the funds from Germany and America to the Russian revolutionaries. Evidence from this book source directs us to Wall Street companies, including Morgan's Guaranty Trust, that not only did it back the Bolsheviks, but it also funded other previous international revolutionaries, like the 1912 Sun Yat-sen Revolution in China. So we see that this collaboration between Germany and the U.S. and the global coordination to destroy Russia through financing the Bolshevik Revolution brought about a godless government that schemed to destroy the Orthodox faith. So in the second part, I'm going to get it more into that and how, what was basically, we're going to learn why they did this. And this book is from, it's the Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, How Western Capitalists Funded Lenin, the Bolsheviks, and the Soviet Union by Anthony C. Sutton, 1974. So, that's what I wanted to share with you in case you didn't know that. It's pretty important because what they called it back then was internationalists, but what we would call it today is globalists. So this has been going on, this global type of group of elites, this cartel, whatever you want to call it, has been going on for, early 1900s. And, terrible that these wealthy people who don't care, obviously, about Christians, especially in Russia, they just want their money. They just want to find out a way to make money and do what they want. I'm not sure why, though. They were backing these revolutionaries. So we're gonna, I'll bring you the next update on that in the next video on this. It's a two-part. I just didn't want to go on too long in one video, so I hope that you got something out of that. If you weren't aware, I hope it was informative to you. It certainly was for me. It's disturbing because as an Orthodox, again, my country has always seems to be behind the scenes. The elites always seem to be, along with other elites in the world, always seem to be persecuting my church, the Orthodox Church. And as we know, spiritually, that's how it's always been, that the evil one has been wanting to destroy Christ's church for, from the beginning. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you. Again, hope it was informative. Thanks for watching. Thanks for following my channel. Thanks for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed, consider it. And if you like the video, please give it a like. Also, there's the notification bell if you want to be notified when my videos come out. Until next time.